And in the midst of the elders stood a lamb, as though it had been slain, having 7 horns and 7 eyes, which are the 7 spirits of God sent out into all the earth. Then he came and took the scroll out of the right hand of him who sat on the throne. Now when he had taken the scroll, the 4 living creatures and the 24 elders fell down before the Lamb, each having a harp and golden bowls of incense, which are the prayers of the saints. And they sang a new song, saying, "You are worthy to take the scroll and to open the seals, for you were slain and have redeemed us to God by your blood out of every tribe and tongue and people and nation, and have made us kings and priests to our God. And we shall reign on the earth." Then I looked, and I heard the voice of many angels, I need light.
I'm sure there were many mighty angels.
Many mighty angels, yes, around the throne, the living creatures and the elders, and the number of them was 10,000 times 10,000 and thousands and thousands, saying with a loud voice, "Worthy is the Lamb who was slain." Hallelujah, Jesus, to receive power and riches and wisdom and strength and honor and glory and blessing. And every living creature which is in heaven and on the earth and under the earth, and such as are in the sea and all that are in them, I heard saying, "Blessing and honor and glory and power be to him who sits on the throne and to the Lamb forever and ever." Then the 4 living creatures said, "Amen." And the 24 elders fell down and worshiped him who lives forever and ever. Thank you, Jesus.
Psalm 66, 8 through 12. Oh, bless our God, you peoples, and make the voice of his praise to be heard, who keeps our soul among the living and does not allow our feet to be moved. For you, O God, have tested us. You have refined us as silver is refined. You brought us into the net. You laid affliction on our backs. You have caused men to ride over our heads. We went through fire and through water, but you brought us out to rich fulfillment.
I remember Jack's last night, and I read this, Psalm 66, 8 through 12, which does state, "You are soon going to a wealthy place." And I said to Jack, "Jack, you will soon be going to the most wealthy and abundant place." And honey, I have to believe that God has that abundant place for me as well. The last chorus I sang was Majesty, worship His Majesty. He relaxed in my arms and slept. And when I woke up an hour later, he was with His Majesty. So we are going to have our next sharing time, and John is going to come up and start that out with a few words that he has to share. If there's anybody who has memories of like the Petoskey days, good old Petoskey folks, here we are, this would be that week.
I'm going to address this to Grandma Paget's grandkids. So all you grandkids who are either as Grandma or Grandma Gigi, I'm going to talk to you, and I think what I say will also be applicable to everybody here. But I want you grandkids to listen closely, okay? The grandma that you knew and loved was formed in part by spending 29 years with Grandpa Paget, who you guys never really met Grandma Paget except Vanessa, but he died before Vanessa was even 1 year old. And now we actually have another Jack Paget too, and my grandson's named Jack Paget. So Jack Paget was a good man, and a lot of what you know and Grandma came from their years together and what they experienced together. At Grandpa Paget's funeral, there were a number of people that shared. And I think the things that they shared about Grandpa Paget also apply to Grandma Paget. And I'm going to share some of those things. I'm going to change the name from Jack Paget to Colette Paget. And I think the people who originally shared them wouldn't mind them, because those who still knew Colette would agree that it applies also. Is Jim Larson here?
He is at kidney dialysis and could not make
Okay.
it.
Because one of them is attributed to him, and he spoke also at my father's funeral. But a former pastor that they had gotten to know by the name of Randy Stecker said, "We cannot remember Colette Paget and know Colette Paget without having a love and appreciation for worship of Jesus Christ." Doesn't that apply to Grandma Paget? It does. The pastor at that time, by the name of Pastor Jacobs, said, this is kind of like what King David had said. When King David said he had fulfilled God's purpose to his generation, he fell asleep. I think Grandma would also say, "I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that I have fulfilled my purpose to my generation." And she was content to go home and be with Jesus because she had fulfilled what God wanted her to fulfill. Jim Larson said, "We are here to celebrate the victory." I remember Colette Paget not for what she lost, but for what she gained. And this that she gained is the victorious life of Jesus Christ. Don Schorsch, a close friend of both Mom and Dad and Grandma and Grandpa, would say, "There are three things that Colette Paget would say to you and to me here today. The first one is Jesus Christ loves you. The second one that she would tell you today is Jesus Christ loves you. And the third thing that she would say is Jesus Christ loves you. This is because that is the life that Colette lived. and that is how she lived her life. A administrator way up in the Assemblies of God by the name of Ivor Frick shared this. And again, I'm paraphrasing for Grandma what was said about Grandpa. She is more alive today than she's ever been before in the presence of God. The year that Grandpa died, the year that Grandpa Paget died, Grandma wrote a Christmas letter, which a lot of you probably received your Christmas letters over the years. And I'm going to take a couple excerpts from the Christmas letter that she read that same year that Grandpa died. It had been a rough year, and there had been a lot of things going on that the world would say, is this a time to celebrate the victory? And Grandma Paget wrote, yes, we proclaim this is indeed a time to celebrate victory, as she referred to Grandpa Paget now being in heaven with God. Shortly before Grandpa Paget died, he and Grandma were playing cards at the kitchen table, and my wife Celeste and I were going to go on a mission trip to Ecuador. And it was near when we anticipated he probably would die before too long. And the last thing I said to him when I walked out the door was, Dad, if I don't see you here when I get back, I'll see you in heaven. And he did die while I was gone. And so that was the last thing I said to my father before he died. On the day before Grandma died, I had been visiting her, and it was clear that her health was failing and her time may be soon. And even though she'd been ill these whole last 7 months, I just never had said this before. But right before I left, I said, Mom, do you remember what I said to Dad before I went to Ecuador? And she said, yeah, if I die before you get back, I'll see you in heaven. I was kind of not feeling comfortable, and I said, Mom, it's time for me to say that to you. It's time for you to go meet Dad and go to heaven to be with Jesus. And 24 hours later, she was gone. Grandma and Grandpa are both in heaven now. But I'm going to read again something that Grandma wrote in that Christmas letter after Grandpa died. She said, we can now look forward to more days of celebration as we are victorious because of the life in Christ. Seeing that we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, I believe that Grandpa Paget, Uncle Tim, Aunt Val, and now Grandma Paget are all there cheering us on to victories in Christ Jesus. Grandma and I'm sorry, let me read one other thing she said there. That was already mentioned right before Grandpa Paget died. Grandma said, and I'm going to repeat what was already shared. I remember turning to Jack and saying, honey, soon you will be going to that most abundant place. And honey, I believe that God has a place of abundance for me too. And I think if Grandma were here today, she would be saying to you, all of you, but I'm saying especially to the grandkids, she's now in a place of more abundance. But God has a place of abundance for you too, and that's what she wants you to experience. And a song that expresses that is that the place of abundance is in God's love. And one of the last songs she also sang to Grandpa before he died was The Love of God. And that was a favorite of Grandpa's, and he actually sang that at my high school graduation's baccalaureate. The love of God is greater far than tongue or pen can ever tell. It goes beyond the highest star and reaches to the lowest hell. O love of God, how rich and pure, how measureless and strong, it shall forevermore endure the saints, the angels' song. Could we with ink the ocean fill, and were the skies of parchment made, were every stalk on earth a quill, and every man a scribe by trade, to write the love of God above, would drain the ocean dry, nor could the scroll contain the whole, though stretched from sky to sky. O love of God, how rich and pure, how measureless and strong, it shall forevermore endure the saints, the angels' song. God loves you, and so does Grandma.
Do any of the Petoskey people want to take a quick moment to come up and share? You don't have to if you don't want. Sherry, of course, and it can be funny, it's okay, Mom liked funny too.
Colette was my spiritual mother. Michelle and I became best friends. So when I went to see her, when she passed, was when we found out she was sick, I told her that it wasn't right because Jack died about 6 months after my dad had a tractor accident. And I told her that that's not fair because my mom had just passed away. And she said, well, Sherry, I'll tell you this, I won't die within a year. And she didn't. But Michelle and I spent many hours under Jack and Colette's guidance. We spent more time at their house because I lived way out in the country. And when Michelle would come out to my house, we'd go snowmobile in their horsing or whatever. But when I was in there, I saw a lot of love and kind of what I wanted kids to look at me as. When I look at Colette, I called her Mom. She sent me a birthday card this year that said, I'm going to turn the tables on you and call you daughter. Because you call me Mom. And then, I'm just kind of falling apart here, I'm sorry. There are a lot of things. The last time I saw Colette, I laid my head on her chest and I just help her. And she just helped me. And it was just a special moment. Michelle and I got to take her outside and we got to just sit and talk with her, and she was out there for quite a while. But when I look at when I look at Colette, I see the kind of person I want to be for kids around me. I am a lunch lady, a glorified lunch lady. And when I'm a director at a school, and when I see these kids, I want to be to them what Colette was to me. I want them to be able to come to me and talk to me. I could tell her anything, she just loved me. She just loved me. And I see someone that I want to be like someday. When my time comes and people remember me, I want them to remember me the same way we remember Colette. And that is my goal. One of my goals in life is to, I love Jesus with all my heart. And I want to be like she is. No funny, I'm sorry.
You're good, you're good. Anybody else from that era that feels like they want to come and share before I hang out there? No? Okay, last chance. Okay, so we're gonna get back in on mom again, okay? I remember after Jack died, because of circumstances beyond my control, I had to find a new life. And God spoke to me through Psalms 78, Mrs. Trina, 1 through 4, to share the praiseworthy deeds of our Lord with the next generation.
Psalm 78, 1 through 4. All right, people, listen to my instructions. Open your ears to what I am saying, for I will speak to you in a parable. I will teach you hidden lessons from our past, stories we have heard and known, stories our ancestors handed down to us. We will not hide these truths from our children. We will tell the next generation about the glorious deeds of the Lord, about the power and his mighty wonders.
The following events became possible because of God seeing the big picture of our lives. 27 years before, I had received a 2-year Minnesota teaching certificate, but had never used it. But because of having had this, I was able to receive a full 5-year Minnesota certificate after Jack died. And I was able to get a job in the Minnesota area at Faith Academy. Then when Faith Academy closed its doors, Brian Sullivan met with families from Faith Academy who highly encouraged him to hire me sight unseen via a telephone conversation. And I accepted a position at Maranatha Christian Academy, where I taught 4th grade for 20 more years until I was 76 and a half years old. At this time in my life, grandkids came into the picture. We've got some grandkids coming up here. At this time in my life, grandchildren entered the picture. And 2 very special memories for reciting to them my favorite poems and teaching them fun songs from my youth.
Oh, there's a dopes and dozy dopes and little lambs, did I be a kiddly-divey too, wouldn't you? Yes, there's a dopes and dozy dopes and little lambs, did I be a kiddly-divey too, wouldn't you? If the words sound queer and funny to your ear, a little bit jumped and jivey, sing mares eat oats and does eat oats and little lambs eat ivy. Oh, mares eat oats and does eat oats and the little lambs eat ivy. A diddly-divey too, wouldn't you? Woo-hoo. A diddly-divey too, wouldn't you? Once there was a chicken who would say chick, 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 all day. Soon that little chick got sick and tired of just chick, chick. So one morning started to say, fun part, oh, chicory chick, chala, chala, chackaroo-rooney. In a banana, kabala, kabala, can't you see? Chicory chick is me. Chicory chick, chala, chala, chackaroo-rooney. In a banana, kabala, kabala, can't you see? Chicory chick is me.
Not start yelling this one. I love you.
I love you, a bushel and a peck, a bushel and a peck, and a hug around the neck, a hug around the neck, and a barrel and a heap, a barrel and a heap, and I'm talking in my sleep. about you. 'Cause I love you, a bushel and a peck, you bet your pretty neck I do. I doodle-doodle-doodle, doodle-doodle-doodle, doodle-doodle-doodle-doo. Bum, bum.
Hi kids. Gigi wanted me, she specifically wanted me to sing this song to you. So this is for you. Tell it to your children and your children's children. Stamp it on the doors of their heart. Make it the theme of the song that you sing. And sing it to them right from the start. Tell it in the morning, tell it at night. Make it your life, your joy and delight. Tell it to your children and your children's children that Jesus is the Lord of your life. Tell it to your children and your children's children. Stamp it on the hood, stamp it on the doors of their heart. Fill up their mind with the things of the Lord, and from them they'll never depart. Sing it when you're laughing, sing it when you're talking, sing it when you're working, and sing it when you're walking. Tell it to your children and your children's children that Jesus must be Lord of your lives.
Okay, now kids, you're all gonna remember this one. You might want to turn around and look at the screen. Are you ready? Do we have? Do we want to stop it and back it up and start it over again?
Yeah.
Was the speaker not there anymore? You guys say when. Do I need to back this up and do it again?
Wrap it up and we'll.
There we go. Okay. Now let's give it a go. With the sound. Oh. That's good. Yes, she's talking. Okay, we're gonna back it up one more time. That's okay. That's all right. What would a service be without some technical difficulties? Okay, somebody, the speaker had accidentally gotten turned off. It was supposed to stay on. Okay, are we ready to go forward now?
Vanessa, is it paired?
Yeah, it is in front of the mic, have your volume up.
Okay, so is it ready to go? Okay, here we go.
And this is what I said to her. Little boy kneels at the foot of the bed. Choose on little hands, little goat head. Hush, hush. Whisper who dares. Christopher Robin is saying his prayers. God bless Mommy. I know that's right. Wasn't it fun in the bath tonight? The cold so cold, and the hot so hot. Oh, God bless Mommy. Daddy, I quite forgot. If I open my fingers a little bit more, I can see Nanny's dressing gown on the door. It's a beautiful blue, but it hasn't a hood. Oh, God bless Nanny and make her good. Mine has a hood, and I lay in bed, and I pull the hood right over my head, and I curl up small, and nobody knows that I'm there at all. Oh, what was the other I had to say? I said bless Daddy. So what can it be? Oh, now I remember. God bless me. Little boy kneels at the foot of the bed. Jumps over the hills. Little goat head. Hush, hush. Whisper tears. Christopher Robin saying his prayers.
You ready, Cindy? Okay. While I was at Maranatha, I was nominated for the June B. Gills Teacher Inspiration Award, given to a teacher in Minnesota for continuing to be an inspiration to her students, even years after they had left her classroom. I was nominated by former student Jera, and today we have Jera's mom, Cindy, who's going to tell us a little bit about that.
And Jera would have loved to have been here, but it wasn't possible. She has 4 children now. She's 39 years old, and her youngest is 2. So she's a busy mom. But I'm honored and privileged to be here. Mrs. Paget, that was the first June B. Gills Award presented. She won the first one in Minnesota. And it was started by a man who amassed some wealth, and he was probably in his 50s. And June B. Gills was the teacher that had a huge influence on his life when he was younger. So he wanted teachers to be honored, so there was one, he's the one who put up the money in the award, and it was, I believe, for the state of Minnesota. And the nice thing about it is the award is, the nominations come from their students. And then there was a panel that made a decision regarding the students. And fortunately, in my family, my son had Mrs. Paget in 4th grade, and my daughter had her for 4th and 5th grade. My daughter was in that class at Faith Academy, had her in 4th grade. Faith Academy closed. I was one of those parents that called Mr. Sullivan and said, you need to hire this teacher. And they hired her for 5th grade at the time. I think she then moved it back down to 4th grade.
Yep. Yeah, I think
But that allowed my daughter to have her for 4th and 5th grade. So when we heard about this award being given out, it was kind of an announcement to the kids at Maranatha. My daughter was 15 at the time, in 10th grade. She came home excited, told me about it, and said, I want to nominate Mrs. Paget. So she got the paperwork from one of the administrators at school. She filled out all in her own words the nomination, sent it in. Actually, she gave it to the school, they sent it in. And I think it was a few months before we heard anything. And sure enough, Mrs. Paget was the one who won it. And one of the things that we were told, one of the reasons she got it was because it was a student that was older, talking about a teacher that had had an influence on them, impacted their life in their younger elementary years. Most of the nominations were for current teachers, current school year. And I really believe the Lord had his hand in that, and he wanted Colette recognized. And so at the rotunda at our state capitol in Minnesota, the award was presented to her, and there's my daughter. And on the left, Mr. Sullivan, the principal, the boss, and Mrs. Paget. And she not only won a trophy, she won $1,000. You know what she did with it? She wanted new desks bought for her classroom. Isn't that Colette? Yeah. Anyway, an amazing teacher. So think about what you just saw with Vespers. I never had a teacher that did that kind of stuff. I don't think I would have wanted to leave the classroom. She was, all of you grandkids, you have an amazing grandma. Well, she was that way in the classroom too. Left them spellbound. Kept their attention, she was great.
Thank you, Cindy.
Yeah.
Tracy, this is your, there you are, hi. The mic is shortish, so you might have to make a little adjustment. We have, I believe this is our final sharing time, so if you are like, well, I don't know if I want to, this is your last chance. So Tracy's gonna start us out, and then if somebody else wants to come up and share, now is the time you do that. It's been a day.
For those of you who don't know me, I had the privilege and honor of spending 15 years of my life with Colette and Jack's middle daughter, Valerie Ann, who I brought with me. These are her ashes I had made into this heart, and I wanted her here with me, so I brought this with me. So I'm here representing Val, who passed in 2013. And this has been a harder day for me than I think I expected. It's not right that I'm up here. It should be her being up here saying things about her mom, so you'll have to bear with me. I first wanted to say that if Uncle Dwight did the early years and he was old, I think that makes me a spring chicken because I'm doing the later years.
You are.
Just checking. But what?
But you do what you need to do.
Okay. I tried to think about what Valerie would want to say to you, not what I would want to say to you. What Val would want to say about her mom and her later years. Colette had always visited with Val. Once Val moved to California, her mom had always visited with her and never stopped doing that even after Valerie and I got together. And then she would bring a grandkid with her every other year. And so I had the pleasure of, the people that I call the kids are now all you grown folks that are here that have your own kids. But I got to watch them grow up and spend time with them the woman was unstoppable in many ways. I think she always kind of outran me even in my younger years. We did Disneyland and ball games and the wild animal park and we took her to the Rose Parade. That was the first time we got bleacher seats instead of sitting on the curb, and that was I won't ever go back to the street seats again, and we'll sit in the bleachers. I remember Valerie kept trying to talk her mom as she would get older and kept bringing the kids out and doing all these active things. And Valerie would say, Mom, we can go to Universal Studios or Disneyland and get a wheelchair. We know you don't need a wheelchair, but we can get one to help you make it through the day. She just was not having that, just wasn't having it. And finally one year convinced her. She was like, well, we'll just get it. I probably won't use it, but we'll just get it. And come to find out, if you're in a wheelchair, you get to go to the front of every line. And she was just, why didn't we do this last year? Valerie said, I thought you might enjoy it. So she enjoyed that. Many of you probably know this about Colette, but she was an avid card player. Just games in general, but cards. We never went anywhere without many, many decks of cards. And one of my fond memories, and I think Val would agree, Colette was very competitive, which Val was too. I think Val was a little quieter about her competitiveness, but I think Colette would be so competitive in spite and malice, and just the name of the game was just, and Colette would be, you gotta do this, and so Val was like, Mom, what if we just let the cards play out, and had this whole gentle approach and I think what Colette did then was when she could tell she might not win, she'd be like, I'm going to do it your way, and I'm just going to play the cards like they come out. Right? So she kind of adopted the kinder, gentler approach a little bit. But I don't really know how to work this in, but I know that it would be important to Val to mention her brother, Tim, who's also not here. And they were very, very close, even in age, but just very close growing up. And Tim died when he was way, way, way too young. 17, yes. And I just think she would want his memory here. I am a big believer in some of the kids and I were talking about this yesterday, just the whole custom in Mexico with the Day of the Dead. And if you're not familiar with that, there's a custom where, and it's around Halloween, but there are altars where you have pictures and mementos and things set up of folks that have gone on before us. And the thinking is that you die 3 deaths, and one is when your body stops working, the other is when your spirit leaves you, and the last one is when the last person tells a story about you or talks about you. And I have found a lot of comfort in that since Val passed. And we've talked a lot this morning, some of the kids and I, about how there's just this emptiness with Val not being around to enjoy all of the kids and now your kids. But as long as we keep talking about her and keep talking about Colette and Jack and Tim I think that keeps their memory alive, and we are all living reminders of them, I think, too, and embody little parts of them that we've kept with us. So I think Val would want that to continue, to talk about her mom and tell good stories, and I'm sure we all have many of them. And this is your chance, and don't give up your chance to come tell a good story about Colette.
Okay, she gave me a segue. Okay, now that you know it's your last chance, you're all thinking you'll come up. This is my dear nephew Zachary.
Yes, I'm one of the champions. My dad is Mark's brother. And growing up, I consider myself to be a very lucky guy. Both of my uncles married wonderful women, and both of those women brought their mothers. My Aunt Julie and her mom Gloria, my Aunt Sarah and her mom Colette. So family events, holidays, things like that, Gloria and Colette were always there. So I ended up with a couple extra grandmas. And I remember specifically one 4th of July, we were down at the Petoskey waterfront, sitting waiting for the fireworks. We had our spot right on the beach, all picked out, and just before the fireworks were about to start, it started sprinkling. And it just kept sprinkling. It just wouldn't stop. And we're sitting there with Colette, and she said, "I'm not leaving until it really starts raining."
That's mom.
Those words had barely left her lips, and we were all just immediately soaked. Sprint finish, back to the cars, just go. Throwing chairs in, everything. And I will never forget Colette being so upbeat, just so funny, so good natured. And that's one of the things I'll probably miss the most.
She loved you lots, Zach.
I also am honored to be here with Jane and Cindy. I didn't really plan on doing this, so I just made a couple of notes on the program. But when we first came to Maranatha, my family and I, when my son Josh was going into 4th grade and Zach was in kindergarten. And at the beginning of the school year every year, our home church, Living Word Christian Center, would introduce all the staff members. And I hadn't met Colette. Joshua had a rough year in 3rd grade. Neither of my boys particularly liked school. And so I was really hopeful for him to have a great 4th grade year. So this is my confession. I've told it to Colette, so she knew. When I first saw her, well, she was not the youngest teacher on staff. I'll just say that. And I started to be a little bit concerned because Joshua's previous year hadn't been, he likes to wiggle, he talks a lot. You know, he was a good boy, but didn't love school and was disruptive. And his teacher in 3rd grade really kind of figured that all kids should always have both feet on the floor and be quiet and so on. So when I saw Colette, my heart kind of sank a little bit because I was hoping that she wasn't going to be a crabby teacher. And I remember asking Mr. Sullivan later that evening, very gently asking him what kind of a teacher she was. And he said, well, she's very, very loving and nurturing. She's a great teacher. And at the first conferences that I was at, talking with her, I was asking her how he was doing, and you know, he was doing okay in school. And I said, well, she said he likes to talk a lot. And I said, oh, yeah, he does. Is he disrespectful or disruptive or anything like that? And he always liked to sit on one leg and wiggle his foot. He could never sit still. I asked her about that. She said that was no problem. And when I was talking to her about talking, I said, well, I know he likes to talk a lot. She said, oh, but that's okay, so do I. And he's always said Mrs. Paget was his favorite teacher. He enjoyed fourth grade and you know, that was the best for him. And then Zach, when Zach got in fourth grade, now my Zach never really cared if he even ever learned how to write his name. And that hadn't really changed by fourth grade. Well, she just brought out the best in him all the time. And he also loved fourth grade. She got him to, they had to do speeches, and she got him up there to talk about, he was learning about motocross, and he loved motorcycles. And so his speech was on safety equipment, and he got 100%. He did so well because of her encouragement to him to do that. So those are a couple of memories. We worked together, we laughed together. I drove the school bus on field trips. I remember she taught me how to snowshoe. I thought, well, I'm never gonna be able to walk in snowshoes on a field trip because I drove all the field trips for Maranatha. And, but she got out there and I thought, well, I'm younger than she is, I better try this. She was always so encouraging. We had ladies weekend where there were 12 of us for several years that got together on MEA weekend and spent a couple nights overnight, and we were all different ages. And Colette was just so much fun, and the card games and everything, we just had a blast. And she never minded that it was always kind of, well, who's gonna be willing to bunk in with Colette, because, you know, she's a little, yeah, loud at night. And she was never offended. We ate her apple dumplings, which I want the recipe for. And let me see. Oh, the one thing about fourth grade I have to share, when Joshua was in fourth grade, his dad had diabetes and was having a very major surgery that year. That was our first year at Maranatha, so I had no idea about Jack and her Jack stories. She always told Jack stories to all of her fourth grade classes. And when she found out that Joshua's dad had diabetes and was having a major surgery that year, she was so sensitive to him through the year that she didn't tell the same Jack stories. She never told one that talked about times when he had to have surgery because of diabetes. She was so sensitive to him. As a mom, you know, that just meant a lot to me. And she was just that kind of a friend. We played cards a lot, and last year when we came, or earlier this year, Cindy and Jane and I, when we had heard the news, we came up to see her and visit, and of course we played cards. And one of us, it was Jane or Cindy, I don't remember which one, took a trick away from her or something, and she said, "Hey, don't you know I'm dying?" That was her sense of humor. We just, we appreciate that we can be here. It was an honor always to know her, and she taught me more. Reading Sarah's posts, thank you so much for them. She taught me more how to live. In these months than I can ever share, and how I want to live the rest of my life. I'm so honored to be able to have called her friend, and she could call me friend. And I wanted to say one other thing, but now I forgot what it was. Anyway, she taught us all how to live. Oh, I know, and I wanted to say I do want to be like her when I grow up.
Yes, yes, we do.
So I'm Savannah, Michelle's oldest daughter. So Colette was my grandma. And I would come up here and tell, so I'm going to tell a funny one. And some of you may have heard it. So I really love it. So I was one of the kids that went with grandma to California. On one such trip, really funny, she likes to talk how we went topless to the beach. So I don't know what you do. My aunt Val had a convertible. But she didn't tell anyone. I guess she was telling this story to some of her teacher friends at Maranatha, and she forgot to tell that part until the end.
I think it was at a prayer meeting.
Yes, it was. So she went on about how she went topless to the beach and how it was so freeing and amazing to feel the wind in her hair. And then she waited until the very end to tell them that it was because she was in a convertible and not that she actually went topless. That was just my little cute story that I love to hear Grandma tell. She tells it so much better than I do.
But you did a great job.
And then the other thing is, I think my favorite thing, Tracy talked about how she was very competitive. And my favorite thing is like when you took a trick or anything, where she would do like you snot.
Exactly. We had mother made picture requests.
We have lots of different ones. So those are some fun memories.
This is my baby girl.
When my mom asked if I wanted to help in the service, I said no, because I don't think they'll make it. So we'll see how I do. I was the oldest grandchild, so I was really lucky to have a few years where it was just her and I. And when she moved away to Minnesota, she would come back and work all summer at Lost Valley Bible Camp. And at that time, the tabernacle was just sawdust, and it was hot, really hot. And